confidence in the community and also build the trust by exposure visits, by capacity building, trainings, and these steps have helped to, for women to participate. For even a good example she has given is about the homestay designs. So right from that time, because women, whenever all of us know that women are quite, they are closely in the decision making for these kind of things which are related to home. So even in the rural areas, they tried that they should participate in the decision making when the house design is being done. Or even in terms of, the name of the homestay, which itself was quite a challenge. Now, we observed in our exposure trip that many homestays were named in the name of the wife or the lady at home. So that also was a challenge, but there are certain policies which they are emphasizing on. And very good to hear that both Aap and Swati are very positive that we are moving towards the right direction. More than, yes, young women, because destination will be always not that easy in a topic like gender. But if we are also reaching and moving in the right direction, I think every success story matters a lot. So Sharmili, I've come to you because you have also been, just to see what has been the position in Sri Lanka. So what is it how is it generally in Sri Lanka? Is it similar to what is happening in India, or what are you seeing in Sri Lanka rural areas?
In Sri Lanka, tourism is not for women. It is off limits. So women don't study tourism, didn't, but now they are gradually coming in. And women do not work in tourism. Generally women, their performance is falling in workforce labor participation. Women were 40% earlier in 2006. Now after so many years, it has fallen to 35%. So if you look at our economy, number one foreign exchange is the foreign maids going to Middle East. That's number one. Then the tea pluckers, they are engaged, and the garment sewing girls. But women participation in the labor force is very low.
So what could be the reason for that, you think? I mean, what
was a negative, more towards women. They lost their jobs, and now schooling children are at home. So, and they are learning from home. So then women had to stay back, or they had to cut down on their working hours. So some of them have not gone back to the workforce. Some of them are doing part-time jobs. So that COVID pandemic has really not helped. But generally, tourism is not meant not to be for women. So what my suggestion to you, if it is the same scenario here, you can do two things. One is like, training, education, skills, capacity building of women to come to the formal sector, work in hotels, work into operations, event management, or other even outside tourism in education. The other thing you could work, I think that will go down well in Sri Lanka and India, to get non-traditional, we are looking at non-traditional, but get traditional sectors like agriculture, craft, and include them into tourism. That will work well. So when we say get women to work, everybody is looking at a woman typing at a computer, or women chef, or these are the roles you think women will have to be doing service, F&B or whatever. But that's one option. But the other option is also, while you talk about getting women into non-traditional sectors, get them the traditional sectors to evolve to include it to tourism.
Yes, that's a very important point, I think, because much of all these issues on ground are also related to the so-called very specific, nature of work for women, which is assigned, and I think things are not moving beyond that, and that's where the restrictions come from, family, from all of us face that we have to balance work-life balance, as they say, and the burden always lies with women. So, Lakshmi, being a traveler, a woman who's working, and what is your view and of any solutions that you can? Of course, I know that you're more or less writing, and maybe you're not directly linked. But if as a person, as a lady working, and balancing both work and life, what do you think would be a good solution for ensuring that there's more participation at the ground level? Any suggestions from your side?
You're speaking on behalf of me or for the...
I mean, I am taking your views about any solutions you think will be good for encouraging more participation in the rural areas. Like you just come from a rural area.
Yeah.
You think any points which you think from?
I think I agree with Sharnari in the sense that, see, sometimes we also, when we think about, women empowerment, we automatically think, yes, we want to upgrade them, we want to empower them, we want them to grow into people that we want them to be. It's not about what they want to be. So I think the idea is to find the balance in their own environment, in their own habitat. Maybe give them additional responsibilities that they can do from what they're currently doing. Also ensuring that they can manage their families, so that it is not a conflict, it becomes more of, see, I must say that women in general, and I'm making this as a sweeping statement for women, is there are two attributes of women. We are, by and large, we are very resilient, and we are also very flexible. We have both the qualities to a large extent, at least the people that I've met. And I think that if we can give them roles and responsibilities in their own environment, which doesn't come in conflict with their primary duties or what is perceived to be their primary duties, and still gives them a sense of empowerment. Because otherwise what happens is, like I was talking to one of the girls at the, we were at that souvenir workshop, and she was telling me that she's a graduate, and she said, I've been working here, and she said, I love this because I'm meeting so many people and I've learned new skills. So for them, every day is like an adventure. She's learning something new. It's not about growing or becoming, but the whole idea is, when I kept asking them, "Aapko kya acha lag raha hai? What is it that you like about this place?" They said, every day kuch naya lag, something new to make, something new to learn, something new people milte hain. So we are just talking about giving them that little additional excitement, and which also makes them feel more responsible and be more ownership. The problem comes when we ask them to do something of what we think of what they should become. I think that is,
of course,
that is one
that's
part.
also critical, that they make the choice. They have the freedom to
They make the choice, and we give them options which are in their own environment, which they can naturally evolve into, rather than it being like a conflict with what they think, because otherwise they're also going to have this guilt trip in their head, even without others gaslighting them all the time. You know?
So I'll come to you, Yaya, because we've all given our point of views in terms of our experience in particular regions or country, but you have traveled across and you've been interacting with women who are working in tourism in different industries and generally everywhere. So what challenges have you observed in your research?
Okay, so first of all, due to COVID, many enterprises shut down, or at least they were not working for two years.
Yes.
But there have been a slowing down of new enterprises opened up by women, but looking at young people who want to open a new startup, maybe now in the last month, all over the world, there have been more girls than boys, let's say, who want to open a startup in tourism. So it's like if excluding the years of COVID, it looks that young women have more ideas than young men. That doesn't mean that they probably have good ideas in other fields. But talking about tourists, young women are having, it seems that they are more enthusiastic. They are they're more in schools, in universities, tourism academies, etc. There are 2 points that are important. One is that they should study more, and they are already, but then they are not finding jobs in scientific subjects. So there are, it should be also in tourism, there is a digital divide, and there should be more training of women able to work maybe in hotels, in the formal area or in the industry, let's say, as also as managers, but also as maybe studying, maybe specializing the book. If you study how to develop a project, the participation is the first thing. So first thing you have to ask to someone what does she want to do, if she wants to do something, maybe she doesn't, and then what and how, what and how she already know how to do. Maybe she knows something, but she wants to do something else. And so there is a different way of working with women also in tourism in that sense. The same, for example, about storytelling. People say that women are good at storytelling and talking about what they do, etc. Of course, but also there, for example, there are examples of how they made it. I don't know, in Brazil, for example, they went to there was a group of a population that was the heirs, the grandchildren of the slaves brought to Brazil from Africa, and they were in a very isolated area. Now they are poor. Then they started, because there is a park, so they thought, I'm making a long story short, they thought they could use this park to attract tourists, and so they took this population and they started thinking what they could do for tourists. And so, of course, there were both men and women who wanted to be guides or go to the, I don't know, to see the river, etc. But then they found out that they had, because they were cultivating a special kind of herbs that were still in the same recipes, very centuries old. So finally, the only people who remembered these recipes and knew why they were using this kind of herb, etc., were the women cooking, of course. So they found out that many young women were very happy to found their old traditions they didn't even know. So for them it has been a very important, how can I say, a rebuilding of their past. These young women who didn't know the grandmother and grandmother. So all of a sudden they were sort of depressed and poor and not self-esteemed. And then they started founding a new reason of, of living, or anyway, a new habitat, a new home in their mind.
Yeah, I think when I spoke to Lakshmi also, she touched upon this aspect of traditions being carried from generation to generation.
So it was
from women.
And in fact, one of the reasons why rural work, I mean the work that you can do around a rural state, that can be open up a nursery or a workshop for art crafts or a yoga class or other things, but it is important. One of the most important things is that, well, especially women are improving this as a business.
Yes.
They have more ideas and more possibilities as business.
He wants to add something?
No, just adding, just adding to what she said, it just reminded me. I was in Bhuj for a few years after the earthquake, and there was the organization Wellspun. They were doing some work with their own communities. And one thing that really touched me was that they were rehabilitating, they had their own wellness, they had their own centers, and they were rehabilitating the women, and they were giving them, work to do for their own products, but teaching them embroidery. And since we were talking about the generation, so there were these older women whose eyesight had become, they were not able to do those fine embroidery, and they were not able to do those, but they were very good at training. So what they did is they found these older women who were like matriarchs, but they were also, somebody you can easily connect with. And they've made them groom the younger lot and teach them the little, the embroidery. And they were some of them were obviously they already know, but they have lost touch. And most of these women I met, they had such tragic lives. Some had lost families, children, husbands, homes. They were literally, they were literally devastated. But in that workshop, they were so happy because of that sisterhood. And they had the older women with them as mother figures, training them, teaching them, and giving them some kind of a women empowerment kind of role. So although Wellspun had facilitated it, the story was more about the older and the younger lot.
Yeah, I think much of it is, yes, please, I ask.
So the end of the story was that now they made this program of storytelling where young women are literally working. I mean, it's their job now.
Yes.
And they are using the story of this herb that was made, blah, 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 and teaching tourists. So this is the liaison with tourism. So now the young women are working with tourists, and they are called storytellers because they tell the story starting from the slavery in Africa. So they go back to history, not just saying my grandmother was cooking with oil and sugar, but so it is like a long line that you can follow. That's all.
So I think another good from what Ayaya and Lakshmi has touched upon, it's also about women and women working together also to ensure that there is some kind of synergy in what we are doing and moving forward together, because and it's useful for the community. So I mean, now that we are almost we might have take some few questions also. So I have one important question now from all of us here. We are obviously somewhere or the other doing some work on ground or at our own levels. Do you think that moving from top to bottom approach is that whether if we have leadership at that level, would that sort of help more participation of women? Because all of you are placed in different positions. So do you think if more women are at the leadership level, would that sort of help to also increase the participation of women in tourism in rural areas? So may I come to you, ma'am?
Sure. Goes without saying. See, number of reasons why we need to have more women in leadership. One, it's a matter of right. We deserve to be there on the table. When decisions about us are being made, we have to be there.
Yes.
So that's point number one. Secondly, by default, a woman understands other women's needs better. We are not more or less, we are different. And so to understand the specific needs of women, there have to be more women there. Third is role modeling. Seeing Aparna, my daughter might say, oh, if Aparna can start a business, she can travel to Bhopal, why can't I do it? Right? And my mother supports her in public. It plays that role कि एक महिला को देख के 10 महिलाएं और तैयार हो जाती हैं, हिम्मत आती है, जैसे शुरू में स्वाति ने भी कहा. It's very, very important. Fourth thing is that seeing the positive benefits of having more women adding to business, contributing to the economy, government also takes proactive steps to say how can we bring in more women into the force, because ultimately ये सारा nation building का काम यही है. नारे लगाने से nation building नहीं होती है. छोटा छोटा जोड़ जोड़ के देश की इकोनॉमी में. अब देखिए ना 50% पॉपुलेशन अगर देश की पीछे है, कौन सा देश प्रगति कर सकता है, राइट? सो द टैलेंट पूल दैट वी हैव टू यूज, या तो हम आधे में से चूज कर रहे हैं या हम 100% में से चूज कर रहे हैं. इट्स अ बेसिक मैथमेटिक. सो व्हाई डजंट इट मेक sense to us that it's a business case here to have more women at every level.
And very, very important, let's write down mentorship by other women.
Yes.
This is absolutely fundamental.
And the sisterhood. But
financial reward and mentorship by other
absolutely, ma'am. One thing that Swati mentioned and I forgot to mention was about the structural barriers that women face. One is about property ownership. It starts from there. लीडरशिप आपकी तब आएगी जब आपके हाथ में दम होगा, और हाथ का मेरा मतलब है प्रॉपर्टी आपके नाम है, एसेट्स आपके नाम है. Even if legal provisions are there, the actual property is not in women's name, and that's how there is resistance when women write Maithili Devi Bhavan. आदमी को डर लग जाता है, भाई मेरा घर गया, right? Right? हाँ. So वो कुछ चीजें हैं. If the house is actually in a woman's name, किसी को खतरा नहीं है फिर वहाँ पे. Second is financial resources from institutions और घर से. मेरे पास आदमी क्यों नहीं पूछता औरत से फैसला लेने से पहले? पैसा उसके पास. If he has to hire a lawyer, he can give 5,000 rupees. और कहाँ से लाएगी वो पैसा? Because she doesn't control the assets.
Yes.
Right? So these are structural barriers that government or institutions can support a woman with. And social pressure उसके बाद से ऐसा बनता है कि जब women have started earning money, and last 30 seconds please if you allow me. ऐसा होता है कि जब 2010 में कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स हुए, आप सबको याद होगा, फोगाट प्रिंसेस मेडल लेके आई थी. उससे पहले हरियाणा में बोलते थे जीन्स नहीं पहनेगी, फोन हाथ में नहीं लेगी, ये नहीं करेंगी. रातों रात मैं कह रही हूँ, विद इन अ वीक 200 अखाड़ास केम अप फॉर गर्ल्स. जब फादर अपनी बेटियों को लेके जा रहे हैं अखाड़े में प्रैक्टिस के लिए, जो दबी दबी लड़कियां प्रैक्टिस करती थी छुप छुप के, और फादर्स ले जाने लगे बिकॉज देयर वाज फेम, देयर वर कैश रिवॉर्ड्स, देयर वर गवर्नमेंट जॉब्स. The policy supported them in a manner that it encouraged more women to get into sports. Result आप सबके सामने है. Today 50% of the medals for girls have come from Haryana in all international tournaments. 50% medals for girls. उनमें से भी करीब 80% girls from Haryana have brought medals. So this is what a positive enabling environment does to women.
Yes.
और वो भी non-traditional sports में, कुश्ती, boxing, judo, you name it. So there's nothing that women cannot do.
Yeah.
Women can do everything. It just has to show. We just have to showcase these models that Swati is working on, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I think now that that you mentioned Swati, because you know, somebody, I think we both had gone to some area, and I accompanied her, and I remember that she said that, you know, whenever we go to a village, if there is a lady who goes there, it's much easier to have more, you know, talk with the women in the village. So, would you like to throw light on that?
एक्चुअली जैसा कांता मैम ने कहा कि पॉलिसी लेवल इंटरवेंशन आना बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीज़ें होने के लिए आपको एक सपोर्ट सिस्टम चाहिए. जब तक रिजर्वेशन नहीं था, आज भी हम कहते हैं कि सरपंच पति है सिस्टम में, लेकिन बहुत सारी जगह जो महिलाएं बन रही हैं वो बहुत सारे अच्छे स्टेप्स ले रही हैं, लेकिन जब तक हमारे पास रिजर्वेशन नहीं था तब तक महिलाएं उतना भी नहीं आ पा रही थी. तो ये बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि हम पॉलिसी लेवल पे चेंजेस लाएं. इसी तरीके से अगर हम बात करें कि जब रिजर्वेशन हुआ पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट में कि 33% महिलाएं पुलिस डिपार्टमेंट में जाएंगी, उसके बाद हमें यूनिफॉर्म में महिलाएं दिखना शुरू हुई. अदरवाइज हम एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करते थे, और आज की डेट में आप कहीं भी किसी भी रास्ते से गुजर जाएं, आपको पुलिस विमेन दिखाई देंगी, स्कूटर पे जाती हुई लड़कियां दिखाई देती हैं. स्कूल में साइकिल बांटना शुरू हुआ, उसके बाद लड़कियों ने घर से बाहर निकल के पढ़ाई करना शुरू किया. आपको पॉलिसी लेवल इंटरवेंशन आपको चाहिए ही, और वो आपको बहुत ज्यादा सपोर्ट करते हैं बाहर ले जाने के लिए. तो मैं इससे बहुत ज्यादा एडमिट करती हूँ कि ये कहीं ना कहीं हमें इस तरीके के प्रोविजंस अपने पॉलिसी लेवल पे लेके आना जरूरी है.
Put in relation the rural states and the rural women that we visited or others. Central policies control. How is the relation then? Do they have good chance to get policies that are helping them?
Yes, I mean, I think what Swati touched upon is that the policy makers also, I mean, because most of the differences you can see on ground if the policy making is strong. You know, you can't achieve anything otherwise. So, for example, she has given an example of a fixed percentage of reservation for women in police. It's traditionally probably not something which we were seeing, very commonly seen in India. But once that was declared by the government, so we could see a significant increase in the number of women in police. And now, of course, you can see them everywhere, right from traffic police to the normal police, and even in the army we have now women representing. So these are the things which are level of government which policy making helps us for those. And as far as the, you know, if these policies are made, then a lot of things will, you know, as they say that a woman always has to take a big bold step forward to get out of the traditional norms. And I think if the policy is made, there are sometimes the path itself opens for that. So I think that's what government policies can do, make such a lot of difference.
Also, government in several state governments are also giving incentives, financial
Yes.
incentives for women to start their businesses. And that is what has happened in Madhya Pradesh as well. Yeah, they have done that.
So I think overall I would conclude this session. I'm sure we can speak for a full day on these topics because it is such an interesting topic. And what I can conclude is that yes, the positive thing is that every one of us sees hope because things have really changed from where they were. Maybe, you know, a couple of years back also we were not seeing these changes, but now with government policies, private initiatives and NGOs working in the sector, I think we are also seeing a lot of change even at the level of families. You know, we can see and observe a lot of changes in their own mindsets, education. So there's no one solution to this that, you know, suddenly things will happen. They will take time, but once the social taboos, and of course once I would also like to relate this to responsible tourism, because when we talk about responsible tourism, we are also talking about responsible travelers. So if there are responsible travelers, they will also contribute for more participation of women at the destinations, because they also need to have a sense of confidence in whom they are hosting. So I think I conclude the session by thanking all of you for your valuable thoughts, and I hope we can document all the observations and then follow up also certain things which we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any questions? Yeah, sorry, I was.
Thank you for enlightening, and it was really, I learned, and the views shared by you have evoked some thoughts. And on a policy level, I would ask, how do you suggest to increase young women's participation in the tourism sector? I believe we can see them in colleges and schools. So do we, on the policy level, do we have something for student tourism to bring in more young women participation? One. And second, in terms of infrastructure, because I work on the grassroots level in a village, lack of lights and toilets. These are two major problems in women's safety. I would like all of you to throw light, Kanta ma'am and Swati ma'am specifically, how do we tackle these safety issues, lack of toilet and light in the villages? Because we are talking about rural areas regarding safety.
Swati, would you like to start?
एक्चुअली जैसा आपने बोला पॉलिसी लेवल चेंजेस क्या हैं, तो मध्य प्रदेश ने रिस्पॉन्सिबल टूरिज्म के बैनर में एक प्रोजेक्ट अभी रन कर रहे हैं, सेफ टूरिज्म डेस्टिनेशन फॉर विमेन। तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर गैप्स हैं और विमेन पार्टिसिपेशन कैसे बढ़ाया जाए एक्टिविटीज़ में, तो इसमें दो प्रोविजन किए गए हैं। एक तो स्किलिंग में ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हम फीमेल को लेके आए, तो हमारा ये प्लान है कि हमने 50 डेस्टिनेशन अभी मध्य प्रदेश में आइडेंटिफाई किए हुए हैं, और उन अभी वो मेजरली रूरल एरियाज में नहीं हैं, जो हमारे आइडेंटिफाइड डेस्टिनेशन से उन्हीं में है। और उसमें इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से रिलेटेड गैप के लिए हर कोई ना कोई डिपार्टमेंट से रिलेटेड ही होता है। अगर टॉयलेट बनाना है तो हो सकता है वो अर्बन डेवलपमेंट का हो या फिर रूरल डेवलपमेंट डिपार्टमेंट से हो। इसी तरीके से अगर रोड बनाना है तो वो नगर निगम के अंडर में आएगा या पंचायत के अंडर में आएगा। तो जो भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर गैप है उनको आइडेंटिफाई करना उस टूरिस्ट डेस्टिनेशन पे, जो कि विमेन के लिए जरूरी है, उसकी सेफ्टी के लिए जरूरी है, उनको आइडेंटिफाई करना और डिपार्टमेंट के साथ कन्वर्जेंस करके उस काम को कराना। क्योंकि डिपार्टमेंट ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई भी डिपार्टमेंट काम नहीं करना चाहता है, लेकिन प्रायोरिटी एरियाज क्या हैं उनके लिए वो भी उनके पास भी अपने लिमिटेड रिसोर्सेज से उसे आइडेंटिफाई करना और उस पर काम करना एक मुश्किल भरा टास्क होता है। तो यहाँ पे हमने कोशिश की है कि हम उनको उनके प्रायोरिटी लिस्ट में लेके आए और उस पर वो अपना काम कर सके। तो ये हमारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर गैप को फुलफिल करने के लिए एक तरीका हो सकता है। दूसरा, हमने इसमें एक प्रोविजन किया हुआ है कि हम हर डेस्टिनेशन पे कम से कम 200 महिलाओं को किसी न किसी जॉब रोल में लेके आए, और वो मेनली ऐसे हों जो कि टूरिज्म रिलेटेड हो। तो हो सकता है कि वो गाइड हो सकता है कि वो जो ट्रेन होके आ रहा है स्टाफ, उनको हम प्लेस करने में मदद करें, या फिर नए जॉब रोल में जो जाना चाहते हैं। यहाँ पे जैसा लक्ष्मी मैडम ने कहा था, हमने मैपिंग किया है कि कौन सी लड़की, कौन सी महिला किस जॉब रोल में जाना चाहती है, उसकी एस्पिरेशंस क्या हैं। उसके साथ मैपिंग करने के बाद ही हम उन्हें उनके इंटरेस्ट के एरिया में लेके आना चाह रहे हैं। प्लस इसके लिए हमने स्किलिंग करने के लिए भी प्लान किया हुआ है। तो अगले 3 सालों में हम 200 महिलाओं को प्लेस करेंगे, और हमारा ये मानना है कि ये मल्टीप्लायर इफेक्ट्स होंगे इसके। एक लड़की को देख के बाकी की और लड़कियों में कॉन्फिडेंस भी बिल्ड होगा, प्लस वो उन नए जॉब रोल को करने के लिए विलिंगफुल होंगी। अभी हमने ओरछा में स्टार्ट किया था ई रिक्शा। शुरू में हमें लगा था कि बुंदेलखंड जैसे एरिया में, ये बुंदेलखंड हमारा ऐसा एरिया है जहाँ पे महिलाएं बहुत कम निकलती हैं। जो महिलाएं हमारे पास ट्रेनिंग के लिए आई थी वो भी घूंघट करके आई थी। आज की डेट में पूरी लड़कियां कन्वर्ट नहीं हुई, लेकिन जितनी लड़कियां आई उनमें से मोर देन 50% आज उस ऑटो रिक्शा को रन कर रहे हैं। लेकिन उसके बाद जिन्होंने छोड़ा, लेकिन उसके बाद नए लड़कियां आई हैं जिन्होंने खुद से सीखा है, हमने उन्हें नहीं सिखाया, फिर उन्होंने खुद सीखा है
और उन्होंने खुद लोन लेके और अब वो उस मार्केट में आए। तो ये केवल एक लड़की की कहानी नहीं बनेगी, इसको बहुत आगे तक जाने, ये हमने शुरुआत की है। अगर आप देखेंगे तो पहले टूरिज्म में महिलाओं की बात नहीं होती थी। आज हमारा जो सुबह से लेके शाम तक दोपहर तक हमारा सेशन चला है, वहाँ पे विमेन एम्पावरमेंट एक ऐसी चीज निकल के आई है जिसपे हर व्यक्ति बात कर रहा है। और ऐसा नहीं था कि उसमें कोई एक जगह के लोग थे, उसमें अलग अलग सेक्टर के अलग अलग जगहों से आए हुए लोग थे। और वो अगर टूरिज्म के साथ विमेन एम्पावरमेंट पे बात कर रहे हैं तो शायद उस कहीं ना कहीं वो प्रोजेक्ट है जो इस चीज को लेके आया है टूरिज्म में। तो ये हम भी जब इसे प्लान कर रहे थे तो हमारा यही सोचना था कि ये शामिल हो जाए, बात होना शुरू हो, और बात होगी तो फिर बहुत दूर तक जाएगी। तो अभी ये इस पे बात होना शुरू हुई है। अब संगिनी से प्रार्थना जी कुछ ऐड करना चाहते हैं।
आप बोल रहे थे जैसे कि यंग वुमेन को कैसे, तो हम लोग कॉलेजेस में फोकस कर रहे हैं। बात सेल्फ डिफेंस से शुरू हो रही है, लीगल अवेयरनेस से हो रही है, लेकिन उसको फिर जोड़ रहे हैं हम स्किल के साथ जोड़ रहे हैं। तो वो हो रहा है। रूरल में भी है, जहाँ पर जैसे भोजपुर है या भीमबेट का है, यहाँ पर जो गाँव है वहाँ से लड़कियों को धीरे धीरे निकालने का हो रहा है। तो उनको जैसे कंप्यूटर स्किल दे दी, हम लोग स्टीरियोटाइप जो रोल है, मतलब वही, क्योंकि घर से वही है कि आप सिलाई में जाओ, कढ़ाई में जाओ, टीचिंग में जाओ, पार्लर में जाओ, इसमें हम लोग इसको प्रमोट नहीं कर रहे हैं, बल्कि हम इस तरह के हुनर को प्रमोट कर रहे हैं जहाँ लड़कियाँ बाहर निकले। तो जो लड़की बिल्कुल नहीं निकल रही थी, वो 4-5 घंटे जाके इंस्टीट्यूट में सीख रही है, 10 किलोमीटर जा रही है, कल वो 20 किलोमीटर जाएगी, फिर वो 50 किलोमीटर जाएगी। तो धीरे धीरे उसका कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग भी हो रहा है। तो वो एक होता है। इसके साथ साथ जो लड़की जा रही है उसके साथ उसकी फैमिली के साथ भी काम करने की जरूरत है। तो ये जो पूरा जैसे भोजपुर में हम देख रहे हैं कि महिलाएं भी हैं, तो वो घर से बस प्रसाद दे रही है और वही बेच रही है। तो और कुछ जो हुनर है उसमें वो आगे नहीं आ पा रही, क्योंकि घरों का दबाव है। लड़कियां बाहर पढ़ने नहीं जा पा रही, तो वहाँ पर उनके परिवारों के साथ काम करने की जरूरत है। इसमें हम लोग जो बाकी वेंडर्स हैं, जो ड्राइवर कंडक्टर्स हैं, इनके साथ भी बात कर रहे हैं लगातार। तो एक बिहेवियर चेंज कैंपेन भी लगातार चलाए जाने की जरूरत है, जो इसमें हो रहा है। एक सेफ्टी ऑडिट भी अभी चल रहा है, जो देख रहे हैं कि कहाँ पर टॉयलेट, जैसे बहुत जगह जो है पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट नहीं है, तो कोई लड़की पढ़ने जाएगी, कोई लड़की जॉब के लिए जाएगी, तो वो वापस कैसे आएगी? तो उसकी वजह से वो जा नहीं पा रही है। टॉयलेट की बात है, लाइट की बात है, वो निकल कर धीरे धीरे आ रही है। तो जैसे ये होता है तो निश्चित ही उसको हम लोग डिपार्टमेंट के साथ भी कर रहे हैं, और जहाँ जहाँ इमीडिएट होता जा रहा है वहाँ उसको
सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स की तरफ से हो गया। जैसे व्हेन आई वाज अ स्टूडेंट, माय फैमिली डिड नॉट फील कंफर्टेबल इन लेटिंग मी स्टेप आउट अलोन सोलो। तो वो हम एंड ऑन पॉलिसी लेवल हाउ आर वी इंश्योरिंग कि स्कूल से, कॉलेजेस से और यंग लड़कियां, बिकॉज दैट इज द नर्चरिंग स्टेज एंड
So I wanted to respond to that. One is, you remember the first trip from school? You went anywhere, चाहे zoo में गए हो, चाहे कहीं देखने गए हो, exposure trips जो हुआ करते थे. I think that's one of the best ways to take girls out of their surroundings, take them out somewhere. वहाँ पे जाके यही नहीं पता चलता कि क्या देखना है, वहाँ पे जो काम कर रहे हैं उनको भी लड़कियाँ देखती हैं। एक महिला गाइड थी यहाँ पे, एक महिला यहाँ शॉप चला रही है, एक महिला यहाँ बुटीक चला रही है, कोई किसी का हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स की दुकान है। इन एक्सपोजर ट्रिप्स का मतलब सिर्फ हवा खाना नहीं है, इनका मतलब ये भी है कि लर्निंग ट्रिप्स होते हैं बेसिकली। तो एक तो वो बहुत ज़रूरी है। दूसरा, जितने भी मेंटर्स हैं फील्ड में, फॉर एग्जांपल मध्य प्रदेश में स्वाति ने जो काम किया है, इफ़ यू कैन इनवाइट हर देयर एंड टॉक टू 100-200 गर्ल्स इन द स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस कि ये एक करियर ऑप्शन है। यू नो, आजकल करियर काउंसलिंग का बहुत ज़्यादा रिवाज है। सो 2 सेशंस फॉर एग्जांपल इन अ ईयर ऑन टूरिज्म सेक्टर, उसमें टिकटिंग से लेके और एयरक्राफ्ट के पायलट तक की ऑप्शंस हैं लड़कियों के लिए। और आप देखेंगे भारत में सबसे ज़्यादा वुमेन पायलट्स हैं। तो डिपेंडिंग ऑन द एस्पिरेशंस एंड फिजिकल कंडीशंस ऑफ द गर्ल्स, सब लड़कियां पायलट नहीं बन सकती हैं। नॉट एवरी गर्ल हैज अ ड्रीम टू बिकम a टिकटिंग एजेंट इन अ टूरिज्म ऑफिस। सो सब लड़कियों के एस्पिरेशंस अलग हैं, सबके सपने अलग हैं। So how do we show them that train of thought that these are the options? You choose from these if you are interested in this sector. I just wanted to narrate a story, and there's a study that says, and it's really proved right with me personally, कि जिन बच्चों ने बचपन में नई जगहों के बारे में पढ़ा है, anybody who reads stories about the different destinations, actually goes to those places.
There was a case study.
Case study also. So I was in.
Case study right here.
Right. Oh, I know. No, I'm saying I was in 6th, 7th class. I read a story about a boy called Toto in Congo. अब कोंगो में बनाना का पेड़ था, वो छोटी दिमाग में इमेज रह गई कि वो टोटो था. He used to go and get bananas from the field. He used to take his oats and I was in Malawi for work. I've been to around 65-70 countries. So अफ्रीका के बहुत ही पिछड़े इलाके में कोंगो पास में था मलावी से. So I made a point कि मैं कोंगो में step down करूँ और टोटो से मिली. अब टोटो उस वक्त मेरी उम्र का था, 7 साल का. मैं उतरी और हमारे मित्र थे कोंगो में यूएन के, तो मैंने पूछा आई वांट टू मीट टोटो. ये बात है 5-6 साल पहले की. तो एक 55 साल की महिला टोटो को ढूंढ रही है. तो उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि एवरी थर्ड बॉय इज अ टोटो हियर. कौन सा वाला टोटो? बट सी आदमी क्वेस्ट है ना, ह्यूमन माइंड वर्क्स लाइक दैट. आप जिस बारे में पढ़ेंगे, जो शहर 50 शहर की यूरोप के देशों की बात की, उनमें से स्विट्जरलैंड पे क्यों दिमाग फिक्स हो जाता है? बिकॉज यू सी इट इन मूवीज. You see it everywhere. People are talking about honeymoon in Switzerland, man. Beautiful mountains in honeymoon or in Switzerland. So people, almost the first European trip people make for happiness is to Switzerland. So we also need to sell these dreams to people that tourism opens your mind, tourism gives you a career option, tourism is a viable career option, not just an option but viable career option. So we need to expose young people to different opportunities and different options that they can explore.
So
जैसे प्रार्थना जी बोल रही थी, तो मैं कहना चाहूँगी कि इस प्रोजेक्ट की सबसे बड़ी खासियत है कि जो ड्रॉप आउट लड़कियाँ हैं या जो महिलाएं हैं जो ये सोच के बैठी थी कि हम पढ़े लिखे नहीं तो कुछ नहीं कर सकते, तो टूरिज्म एक इतना बड़ा प्लेटफॉर्म है कि वहाँ आके आपने बिल्कुल भी पढ़ाई नहीं की, अगर छोटा भी हुनर आपका है तो आप एक बड़े प्लेटफॉर्म में वहाँ प्रस्तुत कर सकते हो और नाम कमा सकते हैं. तो ये जो प्रोजेक्ट हमारा जो सिर्फ मूवमेंट वाला है, इसमें यही खासियत थी. उन महिलाओं को भी हम निकाल के ला रहे हैं जो अपने लेवल पे इतना बड़ा काम कर रहे हैं कि शायद हम बहुत ज़्यादा पढ़ाई करके भी ना कर पाते. तो एक प्लेटफॉर्म पे आपको वो पढ़ी लिखी महिला भी दिखाई देगी और ऐसी महिलाएं या लड़कियां भी मिलेंगी जो गैर पढ़ी लिखी हैं. तो ये इसकी खूबसूरती.
that's very good point, because tourism actually has no barriers, and therefore it's also showing how powerful it can be, not just for income but also for your personal development.
उनकी बेटी बैठी देखे ना, वो
हाँ.
सुन रही हैं. इतने फॉरेनर्स यहाँ बैठे हैं, वो उनका जो पहला एक्सपोजर हो. आई एम जस्ट सेइंग, किसी भी यंग लड़की का पहला एक्सपोजर जहाँ पे इंटरनेशनल लेवल की बात हो रही हो, इज ट्रांसफॉर्मेशनल फॉर हर.
Yes.
Right? So exposure is very, very important to different places, different people, and different experiences. So that's very, very good.
Thank you
Just
so
wanna
much.
say-
I think we have another meeting now after this. So, but I think we should restart this conversation and not stop it here, and keep the conversation and the work on. And congratulations, of course, to all those who are working directly in this field. Thank you very much.
Just one photograph of the match. Yes, everybody can.
बंद कर दो.
I see it.
बंद कर दो.
चलो ऐसे. भैया आप लेंगे क्या फोटो?
मैं लेता हूँ.
ये वाले से भी ये वाला जूम आउट हो जाएगा और ये वाला जूम करना होगा.
थोड़ा दूर से लेंगे तो
राजेश. करेगा इसको आगे के जेब में बंद कर दे। बंद है ना, नहीं ये बंद है, ऑफ।
बंद
हैं? क्या
बंद ही निकलोगे
क्या चीज़? वो डिवाइस